Dead bug. This is an abdominal exercise. It can be quite gentle, but it's really about getting your body to be able to stay in neutral spine. So make sure you're in neutral. You've got the natural curve in the lower back. The backs of the ribs are down. The back of the neck is long. Without changing the shape of your pelvis or of your spine, take a breath in, breathe out, and float one leg up to tabletop. So the knee is over the hip, the shin is parallel to the floor. Take a breath in, breathe out, and then lengthen the leg out straight so your knees are about in line with each other. Breathe in to bring the leg back, and breathe out to lengthen. You're not letting any movement happen at the pelvis or at the spine as you straighten the leg or as you bring it in. So the temptation, or what you're resisting, is when the leg straightens, the back arches, and when you bring the leg in, the lower back presses down. Instead, you're keeping your neutral spine. Pause with the leg bent in. Lift your opposite hand, point to the ceiling. Check the backs of the ribs, keep them down. Take a breath in. Breathe out, lengthen the arm and the leg away from each other. Now you're monitoring your pelvis, spine, and rib cage. Breathe in to bring them back. And breathe out to lengthen the arm and the leg away from each other. The spine is staying completely still. The pelvis is staying completely still. The rib cage is staying completely still. Let's do 2 more on this side. Exhale to lengthen. Inhale to return. Start to exhale, then lengthen. And inhale back. Lower the arm, lower the leg. Check your neutral spine. You've got the curve in your lower back. The backs of the ribs are down. The back of the neck is long. Take a breath in. Breathe out and then float the other leg up to tabletop. No movement through the pelvis or the spine. Breathe in again into the ribs. And breathe out to lengthen the leg out straight. Breathe in to bring it out over the hip. And breathe out to lengthen. No movement through the spine. You're returning each time to the position where the knee comes over the hip. You're not bringing the knee in closer than that. Exhale and then lengthen. Inhale to return. Pause there, lift the opposite hand, point to the ceiling. Check that the back of the ribs are down. Take a breath into the ribs. Start to breathe out and then lengthen the arm and the leg away from each other. Breathe in to return. Start to breathe out and then lengthen. Check that the back of the ribs are staying down, that they're not being lifted by the arm going back overhead. Doesn't matter how far your arm goes, only as far as you can keep the backs of the ribs down. Let's do 2 more on this side. Remember to start the exhale before you lengthen, to let the abdominal muscles engage. And then lower the arm, lower the leg, returning to that position lying on your back. For an abdominal curl, clasp your hands behind your neck, keeping your head down, slide your hands up to the base of your skull so you feel like you've tractioned your neck and lengthened it, and you create a little bit of a nod with your chin. Have your elbows lifted so they're in your peripheral vision. Take a breath in without any movement. Breathe out without any movement. And then inhale into the backs of the ribs to float up into an abdominal curl. Exhale to lengthen that down. And then inhale into the backs of the ribs to create that curl. All the time, the head is nice and heavy in the hands. You're keeping that nice long neck at the back. You're not letting your chin slide forward. So all the work is coming from the abdominal muscles, not from the neck or the throat. Inhale and lengthen the back of your body. So focus on the length as the back of your body peels away from the mat. Make sure you're looking to your pubic bone when you come up. So your gaze will move from the ceiling in an arc down to your pubic bone. You're keeping your pelvis still, so not tucking up with the pelvis. Let's do 1 more. For rolling like a ball, you want to come up into a tucked position. Make sure there's plenty of mat behind you. Pull the feet in close, come up onto your toes, and then roll back through your center so you've stretched a little bit in your lower back, keeping the abdominal muscles pulled in, and dropping the chin gently towards your chest, but not letting your head hang down on your chest. So you've got a long neck, the chin is nodded but not collapsed down. Shoulders are down wide. You're going to roll back onto your shoulders, breathing in to roll onto your shoulders and breathing out to come up. Try to come to a balance. But make sure when you come to the balance that you're not coming up and arching the back or lifting the ribs, that kind of move, to find your balance. You're staying in the curve, massaging the back as you roll. Inhale back and exhale up. Make sure you're not rolling onto your neck, just onto the shoulders. And one last one. Rotation. Lie with your head on a cushion. Make sure there's plenty of cushion behind you for when your head rolls back. Your arms are forward in an arrow and you're in neutral spine. So you've got the natural curve in the lower back, but the ribs are not thrusting forward. They're staying contained. Slide your top arm forward till you feel a stretch across the shoulder blades. Then reach the hand up to the ceiling. When it's pointing up to the ceiling, let the arm bone drop down into the socket, and then you're going to keep it like that. Keep the ribs contained as you rotate the spine. Make sure you're not trying to get your arm to the floor by dropping it out of the shoulder sockets. You should feel some effort behind in your shoulder blade to hold the arm in place. Check what's happened with your ribs. Have they thrust up and you've arched to get further back? Don't let your back come into an arch. You've rotated around a neutral spine. Now reach the arm overhead, get a stretch around the back of the armpit, and circle back around to the beginning. Slide forward, reach up, look to your hand as you go, the arm drops into the socket, and then rotate the spine around, keeping the ribs contained and looking at your hand the whole time. If you don't turn your head, your spine won't turn as much. Then reach your fingers up and away, draw the biggest arc that you can to really stretch around the shoulder. Let's do 2 more on this side. Make sure you've got that shoulder in the socket when you're pointing the hand up to the ceiling, and then rotate the spine with the ribs contained to come back and open. Reach with your fingers, a nice big arc around. And one last one, slide out, point up to the ceiling, drop the shoulder down into the shoulder girdle, and then keep the knees together, but let them slide apart as you rotate the spine around. Reach up and around with your fingers, and all the way back to the beginning. We're going to swing around and do that on the other side. So make sure you've got plenty of cushion behind your head, your knees are bent forward, your top hand is on your bottom hand in an arrow. You're sliding forward, getting that stretch across the shoulder blades, then reaching up to the ceiling. Look to your hand, drop the shoulder down into the shoulder girdle, and then rotate the spine. Make sure that you're keeping your ribs contained and you're not dropping the arm out of the shoulder socket to get closer to the floor. Then reach up and around, watching your hand as it circles overhead. You're reaching as far as you can to get a good stretch. Make sure you've come back to neutral spine. Many of us come back into a curve and a tuck, so make sure you've got your neutral spine. Slide the top arm forward, reach up to the ceiling. Look at your hand as it drops down into the shoulder girdle, and then rotate with contained ribs. And then circle the arm up and around to come back to the center. Check that you're in neutral spine, and we'll do 2 more. Let the shoulder drop down into the shoulder girdle, then watch your hand as you go. Rotating up and around, really stretch out around the back of your armpit. One last one, slide forward, reach up to the ceiling, shoulder drops down, and the spine rotates around. up and around, and return back to the center.